There is serious trouble in these 3 Florida cities, and you should probably get out right now. And let's face it, HOAs are basically destroying the Florida housing market. And I needed to get that off my chest because I got a violation letter from my homeowners association because I had left my garbage can in front of my house an hour after they determined it needed to be put back in, as per their rules, which is completely ridiculous, but it is what it is. I've agreed to their stringent regulations. And make no mistake, if you're in an HOA, there are very likely going to be significant restrictions as to what you can and can't do, and when and where you can and do what. And God forbid you make an enemy with somebody who is on the HOA board, because then you are a target. But if you want to know how crazy your neighbors are, then just join whatever the local Facebook group is for your homeowners association. And I'd encourage you to get some popcorn and probably an alcoholic beverage, because you're going to need it, because it's prime time entertainment. But with inflation and the cost of living skyrocketing, the last thing anybody wants is an assessment or increased fees for their homeowners association. But if you don't play their game and you don't pay up, they can foreclose on you by law. And I suspect some of this is playing into the serious trouble that's going on in these 3 Florida cities. If you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. If you're a returning viewer, I appreciate your participation in our journey. If you find value, please subscribe, and please check out my free Patreon, which is linked down below. But make no mistake, friends, we are in volatility season, and the markets within Florida are changing fast. But so is the climate. And I suspect many folks don't want to be in Florida and want to get out now because they don't want to be underwater on their home, on their mortgage, or physically underwater because Florida is so vulnerable to rising sea levels. And I definitely won't get into the politics in Florida because you already know what a disaster it is. And if you watched one of my most recent videos, which I'll link up above, you can see how insanely greedy some investors have become and some homeowners have become because the market allows them to be right here in Delray Beach. But let's put aside completely the environmental degradation that's happening everywhere, the overdevelopment and urban sprawl, the economic inequality, the educational system concerns that are real, the healthcare strain, the cultural homogenization, the wildlife issues, and social isolation that exists right here in Florida. And despite all of those very real concerns, boomers are still obsessed with retiring in Florida, even though most of their friends can't afford to live here. And yes, South Florida is the playground for the ultra elite, or I should say ultra wealthy. Home prices in Florida have increased by 75% or more over the course of the last 5 years. And unlike the good old days where you could comfortably retire on $1 million, that's damn near impossible here in Florida. So many boomers are opting to move to places like Alabama. And there's no way you're gonna hear me say roll tide, because I only know how to say go Gators, or even better, let's go Owls. But putting all of that to the side, there's serious trouble brewing right now in these 3 cities. Boca Raton, Delray Beach, and Boynton Beach are in serious trouble. But that trouble pales in comparison to a phone call that I got recently from a divorcing seller. Marry the house, divorce your spouse type situation. And there are many folks out there right now who want to be divorced or want to be free, and they can't because they're under house arrest. They are trapped to the asset that they refuse to lose because they can't afford to live any other way. Right now is the most unaffordable time to be a human on planet Earth ever. But in these 3 cities, it's only getting worse. Right now, as of today, real-time data, not the lagging stuff that you're going to see other places. In Boca Raton, the average sold price for a home in December is up damn near 20% compared to last month. And the average sold price for a home in Boynton Beach is up 21%. And if you think those 2 unaffordable numbers are big, wait, it gets worse. The average sold price for a single family home in Delray Beach in December is up 38.3%. But it's not so sunny in Coral Springs, where the average sold price for a single family home dropped 5% to 671, but the month's supply of inventory skyrocketed, and yet the city right next to it, its neighboring city, Parkland, the average sold price for a single family home jumped damn near 18%. And these skyrocketing prices, which are pricing almost everybody out of buying a home in these cities, is going to pale in comparison to what's coming next, because the Fed is lowering Fed funds rates. At least they've said they would. And shout out to Patrick Bet David in Valuetainment for being the first person who I've heard use this term accurately besides me, which is a reverse market crash is happening right now. And everybody sitting on the sidelines waiting for the mortgage rates to come back down is going to get exactly what they had hoped for. We're going to likely have much lower mortgage interest rates in the near term. But the home that you're going to buy in any of the cities that I just mentioned, or really any of the cities here in South Florida, are going to be astronomical. And if you thought that we've seen a frothy or bubbly or insanely overpriced market, you ain't seen nothing yet. Because the COVID frenzy, the pandemic frenzy, the work from home remotely frenzy, the live in free Florida frenzy, all of those frenzies are going to pale in comparison to what's about to happen in terms of home prices in our market, which is phenomenal news for the wealthy, which means the rich will get richer and everybody else will lose. And while gassing up your car today might be a little bit cheaper than it was in the recent past, I sure do hope you're banking that savings, because if you're thinking about buying a home, you can completely forget about the idea that there's ever going to be half-priced homes anytime soon. Prepare yourself for paying a minimum of double the price today, because Florida home values are about to skyrocket up until they don't.